If you're selling on Etsy, I need you to stop what you're doing right now and listen to me. My viewers already know that I've built multiple six-figure stores on Etsy over the past few years, and I've weathered every storm this platform has thrown at sellers, from algorithm changes to fee increases to policy updates. But what happened on June 10th is different. It's bigger, and it can destroy thousands of unsuspecting sellers. I know what it feels like to watch your income disappear overnight because I have also woken up to find hundreds of my listings completely suspended without warning when Etsy decided to ban all the shine-on necklaces. No explanation, no appeal process, just gone. The panic, the sleepless nights, the desperate scramble to figure out what went wrong, I wouldn't wish that feeling on anyone. That's why I'm sounding the alarm right now. So Etsy just made policy changes that could get your entire shop suspended, and 90% of sellers have absolutely no idea this is happening. So while you were focusing on your summer sales and vacation plans, Etsy quietly dropped a policy bomb. There was no big announcement, no email blast, and no countdown timer. So just sudden sweeping changes that are about to destroy thousands of profitable listings that were perfectly compliant just weeks ago. So right now, as I'm recording this video, Facebook groups are exploding with confusion. But here's the worst part. Etsy has provided no clear instructions, no comprehensive guides, no example of what's now banned versus what's still allowed, and they're literally scrambling to figure out their own rules. So I've spent the last few weeks diving deep into these changes, watching videos that can give me some knowledge, analyzing exactly what's happening, and talking to sellers who've already been hit. I've identified the specific products category that are now banned, the exact keywords that will trigger suspensions, and the subtle policy violations that are catching even experienced sellers off guard. So I'm about to show you exactly which products are now banned with real examples so you can protect your business before it's too late. Because here's the truth, when your shop gets suspended, you don't just lose current income, you lose years of hard work and all that invested effort. Everything is just gone. But if you act now, if you understand these changes before they get to you, you can protect your business and even profit while your competitors get blindsided. So let me show you exactly what's happening and how to stay ahead of it. Let's start with the category that's getting hit the hardest, and that's 3D printed items. So if you are a 3D printer seller, this is going to hurt, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. On June 10th, 2025, Etsy quietly updated their creativity standards with one devastating line item. Product using computerized tools like 3D printers must now be made from the seller's own design. They removed the previous clause that allowed sellers to use third-party design files even with proper licensing. This isn't just a minor policy tweak, this is a complete reversal that makes thousands of listings non-compliant. So you know those popular glass holders that everyone has been selling? The ones that look almost identical in the search result with those intricate face details? Well, if you bought the STL file from someone else and then just printed it, well now that's against Etsy's policy. And in looking at search results right now, I can see there's multiple nearly identical glass holders and book nooks and even action figurines all clearly made from the same purchase file. So every single one of these listings generating millions in collective revenues is now in violation. And the sellers who bought these files for $15 to $30 on platforms like Gumroad or any other design platform, well now they're not able to sell those designs as is. Even if you bought a commercial license, even if you paid $50 or more for the exclusive rights, even if the original designer gave you written permission, well, none of that matters under this new policy. Now, don't even get me started on phone accessories or phone stands and holders, even the popular minimalistic designs or car phone mounts, wireless charging stands. If it's not your original design, it's banned, period. So this category is seeing massive casualties that sellers aren't prepared for. Planters and vases from purchased STL files, wall art and sculptures, seasonal decoration for Halloween and Christmas, all of these fall under the same restriction. So here's where sellers are getting confused, and honestly, Etsy hasn't provided clear guidance. Items where you significantly modify the original designs might be okay, but this is a gray area that Etsy hasn't clarified yet. How much modification is significant? Is it 10% different, 50% different? Nobody knows. And items that are heavily customized or personalized after printing could still work. But again, we're in uncertain territory, and adding names, changing colors, or combining multiple elements might make it compliant, or it might not. And here's what we can still sell without worry. Item printed from your completely original designs are perfectly fine. So if you created the 3D model yourself using softwares like Fusion 360, Blender, or Tinkercad, you're in the clear. Items based on public domain designs like classical sculptures or expired patents should be safe, though Etsy hasn't explicitly clarified this. So what you need to do right now is audit your listings. Go through every single 3D printed item and identify which one uses purchase files, document everything, and keep records of any original designs you created. Start transitioning by beginning to create original designs or finding alternative platforms. Don't panic sell because removing all listings at once might not help. So the 3D printing gold rush on Etsy is over, but if you quickly adapt and start creating original designs, you can still thrive while your competitors scramble to figure out what happened. The next changes are crystal, and they are a massive category on Etsy. So if you're buying from suppliers, you're now in direct violation of Etsy's policy. Here's what happened. Etsy added a section prohibiting reselling of items from nature that haven't been used by the seller in the creation of new or unique item. They also updated their service policy to ban crystals from being resold as supplies for metaphysical work. So this is a double hit that's going to devastate a lot of crystal sellers. And let's talk about those bulk crystal towers you've been buying wholesale. You know those beautiful crystal clusters that everyone loves? So if you're buying those pre-cut from suppliers and just reselling them, they're not allowed anymore. The policy now requires that items from nature must be transformed into something new or unique by the seller. So I'm looking at listings right now where sellers are clearly buying these from the same suppliers and just marking them up. And every single one of these is now in violation. The same goes for tumbled stone sets, chakra sets, zodiac collections, and healing crystal bundles. If you're buying these pre-tumbled from suppliers and selling them as metaphysical supplies, they're prohibited under the new policy. This means you can't buy a batch of tumbled stone and create your own sets anymore. Crystal jewelry is a gray area right now. Those wire wrap pendants using purchased stones might still be okay because you're transforming the crystal into jewelry, which could qualify as creating something new. But if you're just buying finished crystal jewelry wholesale and reselling it, that's definitely banned. And spell kits, those herb and crystal kits are getting hit from multiple angles. Both the herb and crystal must comply to the new policy, and selling them as metaphysical supplies is specifically prohibited under the policy update. So here's where it gets really confusing. The policy talks about using items from nature in the creation of something new or unique, but they haven't defined what that means. Does setting a crystal and wire count as transformation? What about creating custom crystal sets? Nobody knows because Etsy hasn't provided any clear examples. What's still allowed? Crystal that you transform into finished jewelry where you're adding significant craftsmanship. Vintage crystal items that are over 20 years old should still be permitted under the vintage category. Crystal products that you incorporate into other handmade items like candle holders or decorative pieces, items where you're generally creating something new using the crystals as a component, not just reselling them. So what you need to do immediately is start developing ways to add value and transformation to your crystal products. Consider focusing on finished jewelry, custom earrings, or incorporating crystal into other handmade items. This change is causing massive confusion amongst craft supply sellers, and I need to clear up some misinformation that's spreading like wildfire through these seller groups. Here's what's actually happening. Etsy has not banned all blank items, but they have tightened their definition and enforcement around what qualifies as legitimate craft supply versus reselling. The policy still allows craft blanks, but with much stricter requirements about how they're listed and marketed. Let me break down what's actually changed. Etsy's creativity standard still allows blank, defining them as items that are not intended to be used without further crafting. However, they're now cracking down heavily on sellers who are just clearly just reselling mass product blanks without adding any value or curation. So those blank supplies you've been selling to crafters and resellers, they're still allowed, but only if they're generally being sold as craft supplies with clear crafting intent. The key is how you position them and whether you're adding value through curation, instruction, or bundling like this listing right here. Blank tumblers are in a similar situation. Blank and vinyl ready cups are still okay to be sold as craft supplies, but Etsy is looking more closely at whether sellers are truly serving the crafting community or just reselling wholesale items. So if you're providing guidance on how to use them or bundling them with other supplies or curating specific collection for crafters, you're more likely to stay compliant. Etsy is looking at factors like product photography, whether you're using manufacturer image, your listing description, and whether you're providing crafting context. So here's what's getting flagged. Using manufacturer stock photos, exclusively copying and pasting manufacturer description, listing items with no context or instruction, bulk uploading hundreds of similar blank items with minimal differentiation, and pricing that makes it obvious you're just marking it up from wholesale purchases, right? So if you are a legitimate craft supply seller, you need to remove any listings that use only manufacturer photos and description. Add crafting context and instructions to your listing. Consider bundling them and creating curated collections. Focus on serving crafters rather than just reselling blanks. Generic party supplies need a farewell. Everything must be occasion specific now, and I mean very specific. This is a part of Etsy's broader crackdown on generic items that can be found just anywhere. So those plain plastic or paper cups without any decoration or specific occasion messaging, well, they must be decorated for specific occasions now, right? So I'm looking at listings where sellers are just selling basic red plastic cups and calling them party supplies. Those are in violation under the new source by seller restrictions. Generic balloons are also out. Solid color balloons without specific messaging or designs, they need to be occasion specific. So instead of just selling blue balloons, you need to sell like birthday balloons, blue baby shower balloons with appropriate messaging or design that make them clearly intended for a specific celebration. And here's the one that's really strange, but I'm seeing it everywhere. Stage lights and LED party lights. I'm seeing listings where the sellers are marketing basic LED lights as party supplies. And these are clearly just resold electronics that you can buy on Amazon for half the price. And these are just generic electronics, not party supplies. So generic costumes might also get hit. Mass-produced costumes that aren't for specific parties or occasion, they must be handmade or vintage now. All the Halloween costumes that are clearly just resold from wholesale suppliers, yeah, all of that will soon be removed. So what's still allowed? Items with specific messaging like happy birthday or congratulations graduate, or wedding specific decorations that are clearly designed for that purpose, or holiday specific party supplies that can be used for just any occasion, and handmade party decoration that you created yourself. This change will affect digital sellers massively because you can no longer just resell designs you didn't create, and this is huge for the digital product category. So those PLR digital products that you've been selling, those pattern collections you bought and are reselling, all of that is banned now. So for those who don't know what a PLR is, a PLR is a digital design or ebook that come with private label rights, meaning you can purchase them and then use, modify, and resell them as your own products. Essentially, you're buying the rights to rebrand and sell the digital paper design without needing to create it from scratch. So like all of these right here. Vintage pattern scans are gone too. Those can sewing and knitting patterns, even if the original is vintage, it's not allowed anymore. This is going to upset a lot of crafters who rely on these patterns, but Etsy is saying that scanning someone else's work, even vintage work, doesn't make it your creation. So purchased SVG files are also prohibited. SVG files are basically design files you bought from other creators and are reselling, and those are not allowed. And template collections like invitation templates, label design, planner pages, then it must be your own original work, even if you bought commercial licensing for those designs. So the new policy doesn't allow reselling any of them. So by now you get the gist of it. Generic tools are getting kicked off the platform unless they're craft specific. So this ties directly into the source by seller policy changes. Generic makeup brushes, standard cosmetic brushes that you can just buy from anywhere, well, they're not allowed anymore. Automotive tools are completely out too. Car repair tools, parts, anything automotive related is not allowed on Etsy anymore. Same goes for gardening tools. Those standard shovels and pruners and garden supply, they're prohibited now because they're generic tools that aren't craft specific. Office supplies are also getting the boot. Generic staplers, organizer, desk accessories. If they're not craft specific or handmade, they're not allowed. The policy specifically mentions that generic supplies that can be found in any store are no longer permitted. So kitchen tools are another casualty. Basic cooking utensil, measuring cups, generic kitchen gadgets. What's still allowed, craft-specific tools like crocket hooks and embroidery hooks that are clearly intended for specific crafting activities. Personalized or customized tool where we're adding a significant value. Vintage tools that are over 20-year-old and qualify as vintage items, and handmade tools that you've created yourself. So many popular add-on listings are now prohibited, and this is going to affect almost every seller who's been using these strategies. So all the express shipping add-on sellers have been selling, or the separate listings for rush shipping or priority processing, it's not allowed anymore. So the update prohibits listings that have an add-on feature with no physical item associated to it. So those are now banned. And I know tons of sellers who have these in their shops as separate listings. Even referral codes are banned. Those 40 free listing promotions that sellers have been offering as separate listings, it's not allowed. These are considered services without physical items. So what's still allowed? Built-in shipping upgrades that aren't separate listings, but are options with your main product listing. Physical gifts items that are actual products, and Etsy's official gift cards. But it's not all bad news. Etsy is now allowing new types of services that could be absolute gold mines for the right sellers. They're now allowing logo design services, professional branding work, custom logos, complete brand packages. So the service policy specifically states that logo and brand designs are permitted as digital services. Video editing services are also allowed now, professional video production, YouTube editing, social media content creation. This is completely new territory for Etsy, and there's a huge demand for these services from other Etsy sellers and small businesses. Audio production is also another new category. Music creation, podcast editing, voiceover work. These are all explicitly allowed under the updated service policy, and the market is wide open for sellers who have these skills. So custom writing services are now permitted to, copywriting, content creation, blog writing. Again, this is a completely new opportunity on Etsy that hasn't been clearly allowed before. They're also allowing modification services, which is huge, such as clothing alteration, where you tailor existing garments, jewelry repair like ring resizing and chain fixing, photo retouching and image editing services, and then restoration like antique repair and refinishing. These services can be incredibly profitable because they're high skills and low competition areas. The key with all these new services is that they must result in a digital file or modified physical item that's delivered to the customer. You can't just offer consultation or advice, but you can offer services that create something tangible. So if you have skills in any of these areas, now's the time to start offering these services on Etsy. The demand is high and the competition is low, and Etsy is actively promoting these new service categories. So here's what you need to do right now, and I mean right now. First, screenshot all your current listings, and you're going to need this for documentation if things go wrong. Second, identify at-risk products by going through each category I mentioned. Third, deactivate risky listings immediately. It's better to be safe than suspended. This week, you must audit your entire inventory, every single product. Plan your pivot strategy, figure out what you can modify versus what you must let go completely, and research new opportunities. Can you offer services based on physical products? Like, smart sellers are already adapting, and I'm seeing some creative solutions. The Etsy landscape is changing, whether you like it or not. The sellers who survive are the ones who adapt fast. The ones who don't, they'll be wondering why their profitable Etsy business disappeared overnight. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section. I'll see you guys next time.